Hello, hello, hello. Hello, sluts and hoes.
Hello! Hey, okay, and we are live, I think. Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody, to the Dapique News Podcast, episode number 7.
We are alive.
We are going to be talking about some really good stuff here.
Oh,
There we
yes. On the podcast today, we have quite a bit of shit.
Yeah, including the biggest story of the week, or the biggest story of the past 2 weeks, Brett Kavanaugh, Christine Blasey Ford, and the Senate hearings. So, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, let's start. Yeah.
Okay.
So, setting my timer extra long for this one,
It's going to be a long one.
it's gonna be a long one.
You know, this is a significant story when I look in like the Apple News app, the one on the phone, and they've got like their news, top news, and your saved news. And then they added a new thing to the menu called Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
So they have like a whole thing dedicated specifically to this.
That's
So,
crazy.
This impacts our country. So how do you want to start this one?
Yeah, well, so
Context?
I will say, so this whole thing just feels like a sham to me. First of all, it started with who was it? John Roberts? Not was it? No. Who's the conservative judge that is stepping down?
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Okay, so it started with Kennedy stepping deciding to, I guess, resign or quit. And the weird, it came like right after meetings with the Trump administration, and the fact that Kennedy has close ties with like the Mercer family and everyone who spent money on the Trump campaign, and a big under the radar sort of reason why conservatives decided to go with Trump was so that they could get conservative judges from the Federalist Society to the Supreme Court. Like, that was the big thing. That's
I didn't
why
think about that. Yeah.
that's
crazy.
why the evangelical vote went for Trump. They're all conservatives, and they want conservative judges. If you think about it, Trump himself is, you could see that they wouldn't want to elect somebody like Trump as president. But if you get two Supreme Court judges that both are undermining Roe v. Wade and they're just gonna side with corporations and stuff.
Of course. So that's a point that I haven't thought of actually never thought of, is that underlying. I mean, like, inherently, like, we know for sure that it has to do with Kennedy will not live as long, and Trump, this is like his time to do it, and he's able to before the elections, right? So there's a clear incentive of, sliding in it now. But the whole thing about the Federalist Society and all those connections there, that's so clear to me that, like...
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, wait, what's the Federalist Society again?
Well, the Federalist Society is this conservative, I guess it's like a think tank or a college club or something like that. It's part of our, conservative aristocracy that we got going on. And it's, I think their focus is the judiciary, is turning the judiciary completely conservative. And it's been a process for years. There was a Bush appointee that got slammed by Congress, or not Congress, the Senate, because she wasn't a member of the Federalist Society, and none of the conservatives would vote for her.
So you have to be aligned with the Federalist Society in order to get like the mainstream support, right?
Yeah.
I would say that's sort of like this unspoken rule behind it. Okay, so we have that as the background. So Kennedy is out, and Trump is gonna fill a spot, needs to fill a spot. He went with drum roll please, the shittiest person, the shittiest justice. Actually, I'm sure there's just as shitty people all over the place, but this man is
he's
not good for many, many reasons, including the number one thing that is probably going to stop him, which is
the rape. All the raping.
Rape. He's a rapist. He's a rapist, number one.
Let's not sugarcoat it here. I mean, people who attempt rape you can sort of cut out the middleman and be like, that person is, rapist. It does actually indicate that you have raped somebody, I guess. But it's still
very likely that you did.
So somebody who, an attempted murderer who has the intention of killing somebody, with a clear lack of morality that's involved. So the engagement of it is pretty much the same. The same rules are involved. That you could theoretically, I guess, still call that person a murderer, right?
So what does it take to be a rapist? Probably I'd say the most key point of what separates rapists from other people is their ability to feel for other people, I guess, or put themselves in other people's shoes, you know what I'm saying?
You think they're like a sociopath almost, or a...
I don't know. Yeah, at some point, if you are forcing yourself, upon somebody to, rape them and stuff, that is a clear lack of regard for another person's will. Do you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
I sort of do and don't agree with that. I think that if people are thinking of rape on the same terms as that, it's a life and death sort of attack situation, then yeah, I would agree. I mean, there are a lot of rapes in which it does become like a murder, a rape and a murder.
Yeah.
But and that's one of the things that Blasey Ford was actually worried about, was that he was going to murder her, which is, pretty
that's
insane.
So again, this person is trying to get to the most highest level of law, the highest court in the entire country, and he's demonstrated. I'm operating under the assumption that he did rape her. That's what I'm saying. So there's still doubt amongst a lot of Republicans, conservatives, but
I'm gonna call him a rapist because I'm completely apathetic to his whole fucking scenario. I have absolutely no empathy for this motherfucker. He's a douchebag. He's entitled to a Supreme Court position, which he should have. He's not. Nobody's entitled to that unless, of course, your parents grow up rich, you go to Georgetown Prep and all this other stuff. He's also feels like he's entitled to sex, clearly, which is that's the rape part, nobody's entitled to sex. You know what I mean?
Think about the other people on the Supreme Court, Sotomayor and everything.
Right.
They're so clearly come from a different place.
And it's weird too, because you could argue that it's a threat. It's having him on the Supreme Court would be a threat to the women. I don't actually think that that's realistic, but theoretically speaking, it's within the realm of possibility. If you don't know whether or not this guy's a rapist, they might act differently when they're around him because they're scared of him.
Yeah.
Also, I guess the thing that I was sort of getting at too is when I think of rape, I don't necessarily go all the way with intention and stuff. I think what it is a hormonal or biological instinct that I think people just lose control. They don't, I think it is a little bit about the inability to empathize with a victim, maybe. But I think also it's a control thing. It's keep it in your pants. You don't have to force yourself on somebody just because you think that they're vulnerable or something like that, like you can get away with it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about it. And the getting away with it kind of thing is if you find yourself ever in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this because I can get away with it, like,
right,
chances are like you're not gonna get away with it. And there's so many, like, this goes so deep on so many levels, and that's the whole, like, thing about rape and murder or any other thing where you're just, like, disregarding somebody's life and just, like, going at it and attacking people is, like, okay, anyways, without going on too much about that, like, does the fact that he has this inability to empathize with another human leads me to believe that if he were to be on the court, he would definitely always he would never side with any case in which there was a human victim, I would say he could be bought out super easily. He could be swung towards,
There's also, I think there's evidence too of him continually siding against the victims of sexual harassment. So I think there's evidence of him on the DC what is it, the DC federal court or whatever,
some court,
and he consistently sided with the perp instead of the victim. So I just think, I mean, this guy's just a scumbag, and I don't think he has very much integrity. I think he's actually lied under oath several times. I think this whole thing is just about him being part of the club, and I mean, he's part of the Federalist Society Club, which is like the Heritage Foundation, which owns Congress, which he went to Georgetown Prep, he went to Yale Law School. So pretty much, he worked for the Bush administration. Like, he didn't really think about whether or not he was getting this position. It was just handed to him on a golden platter. Rape or no rape, they're gonna help out their friend, unless it makes them look so incredibly bad.
Okay. And then, so we had the hearing then, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. The hearing was fucking crazy. So
crazy.
Okay, so Blasey Ford comes in, right? And you can just tell, dude, like, just watching the way that she speaks and her face and everything like that, it's like, and she's like this professor. She has that professor vibe.
Yeah, she's a psychologist. She's like a psychology professor. So it's like adds another level. It's like most assault victims, they can't intellectualize everything that happened in their brain and in other people's brain at the time of the incident.
Yeah, but the point is, like, when you hear her speak, it's so authentic and it's so, like, I don't know, at least to me, and I can call bullshit, like, pretty I can tell when somebody's, like, bullshitting, and it doesn't seem like she, like, rehearsed anything or anything, any of these critiques that so then Republicans, right, and then they didn't want to ask her questions, so they hired this other lady to be the question asker. Not
really using her, like, they didn't use her. Like, but they didn't really ask Blasey Ford any questions. They asked Kavanaugh questions.
Because they were scared. They were scared of asking her anything directly because they knew that they would get shat on.
And they all believed her testimony. They all said it was credible. The only thing that they also said was they didn't think it was Kavanaugh, which shows you that
it's such a, like, around the fucking thing, like.
Well, it just shows you.
Looked like him.
To me, I mean, it shows very, very, very clearly that that they really, like, are dismissive of other people's truth. You know what I mean? It's like bringing it to, like, a class struggle or something. Like, they do this all the time where they turn an ideology they mold an ideology into a certain framework that supports what they believe about, you know, lowering or like taking away regulations or whatever. Like they'll say, you know, entitlements, we need to stop with entitlements, right? But who's really the entitled person in this situation? Is it, you know, somebody like Kavanaugh, or is it a poor person who has nothing, who was born without nothing? I mean, you could frame it in the sense that, like, oh, food stamps are an entitlement, like saying it in the sense like a poor person feels like they're entitled, so they're not going to do any of the hard work necessary to get a job for themselves so that they can feed themselves and their family. But if you're putting it in that framework, you're just a douchebag because people don't have money. Like, money is this fake thing that doesn't mean anything.
So the problem with the word entitlements is what you're saying, or just like with the concept of it.
Well, I'm just sort of relating it back to like they form their own truth based on whatever they want. It's really not
whatever's it's the career thing, right? If you're a senator, what you want is for this conservative to be on there, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, like.
Yeah, and they're tricking themselves into believing a rapist, that he didn't do it, even though he's clearly lying. He lied several times about a bunch of stuff.
Did you ever drink beer at a party?
Yeah.
No.
Like.
Or like, did you ever black out?
Did you ever?
It's so.
And he turned that question back around on this Senator Klobuchar, whose father was an alcoholic. Like, she explained, like, my father's an alcoholic, so I know very well what it's like for somebody to get blackout drunk. Have you ever gotten blackout drunk like that? And then he turned it around and asked her, have you ever gotten blackout drunk?
Yeah.
Which is super entitled and like super, it's like...
Such a douche. This
is a job interview, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking to the management, right? The Republicans, which are the manager, and then the Democrats, who are like the assistant manager, and you're basically talking back to the assistant manager and putting all your focus into the manager, who you know is on your side because of like nepotism or something like that. So you could just shit talk to, you don't care about the assistant manager, like you could just make fun of them to their face in the job interview. That's what that was. That's what the whole interaction with Klobuchar to me was. And it's just, I mean, it doesn't get any lower than I mean, apologizing for a rapist. Is that what the discourse has come to? I mean, that's what it seems like to me. So yeah. So to me, they're really just they're.
There you go. Sorry, there's a technical difficulty where it went orange for a while. Oh shit. Okay, the stream is kind of healthy, but I'm afraid of that like lag thing. So let's just
we'll try it
on.
out. You know, so if you're watching our podcast, thank you so much. This is the Dapique News Podcast, and we love you guys. We want you guys to procreate a lot so that we have a lot of baby followers. Mm-hmm. And we want you guys to show the love as much as you can.
Yeah. So this is our intention is to turn it into a new dynasty. Like I would say probably like 700 years of continuous podcasting is our goal. But
that's accurate.
Yeah, I would say we can shoot for 700. It depends on space travel.
If we get like 683, you know, I'm not gonna be mad. If we get slightly over, if we get like 705, then I'm not 705 years of podcasting. I'm not gonna be mad at that either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're this podcast is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Okay, anyways, we've hit our time on Kavanaugh.
Okay, yeah, don't support rapists.
Don't support rapists. Don't vote for Donald Trump in 2020 because he is also a molester and a total douche as well. So, douche recognizes douche is what I would say. So,
yeah,
don't do it. Don't just, no, there's no space for that today.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's move on to our next topic, where would you like to take this one?
Well, so I would like to take this to the tax cuts that were passed now in the House. So,
okay.
It was like a margin of like 100 something to like 200 something, I think, in which it was passed, which I'm pretty sure is just a party line vote. Like, it's probably some people were absent from it, and then it's just Republicans voted this way and Democrats voted that way, and then there might have been like a little bit of switching between the parties, but huge tax break for the ultra rich people. It doesn't really trickle down, If you get a tax break of $100, so you see an extra $100, basically they're giving you a federal Christmas bonus, for your shitty job. Because us poor folks, we don't get a Christmas bonus of like $1,000. We don't get a Christmas bonus of like a blank check.
So why are tax cuts a bad thing? Let's just start there.
Yeah, so this is actually a huge thing which has been on my mind a lot recently, which is basically wealth distribution. And I think that, especially when it comes to taxes, people want a smaller government because they've been indoctrinated with this ideology that that the government it's run so inefficiently and it's run so poorly, and there's always this battle going on in Congress and everywhere else. They can't get anything done, that it's better if we just don't have government. The reason why this is a horrible conspiracy between right-wingers and the electorate, the people that choose to go along with it, is because what is government especially in America, which is supposed to be a representative democracy? Government is us, we the people. We are our government.
Mm-hmm.
They represent us, right? So whatever we need in order to survive, we look at the government to provide it for us. Mm-hmm. Shit that is out of balance, so we can't survive, we have to rely on the government for that, because something like, for example, the post office, you can't really privatize that. What if my sister wants to send me some mail from upstate New York? I'm in DC, she's in upstate New York. So what? Now we're paying a private company who, on a whim, can just overcharge her because she is in a remote location, or...
Okay. So, I have some thoughts about this too. Like, to let you finish your thought, you can finish your thought too, but...
Well, so they'll prioritize people with more money. They'll overcharge people with less money. And that's why we need to socialize things, is to balance that type of thing out. A lot of people who are indoctrinated by this ideology, they use all the benefits of a socialist system. And by the way, we are very, very socialist. America is founded on socialism. We just had this guy named McCarthy scare people out of that ideology of social programs. Basically, call anything communist, and all of a sudden you have...
It's evil.
Yeah, I mean, people got jailed for being communist.
Yeah.
There was a huge socialist and a communist party in America for years and years and years until that happened.
I think the whole issue here comes down to, it's the very like back to basics thing about it. Trickle down economics does not work, and we've seen this already. And it's basically a front for making your friends who work in these corporations and donate a ton of money to you. If you cut their taxes, they're going to donate more money to you, you know? They'll be your friends.
Yeah.
So it's totally just like a buy and sell kind of deal. And going back to your point about these are elected people that represent us, it's the exact opposite of that when that's the case. So,
I mean,
it's such a rigged fucking thing, man.
Yeah, so I mean, people want, they have this idea like small government, so that, what's that supposed to mean? If it runs more efficiently, what is the logical conclusion to that end? The end is anarchy. I mean, essentially, that's
the end. Yeah,
that's
the very extreme.
The very extreme of
like,
libertarianism.
I don't think there's anything inherently bad with like a smaller government in the sense that like, if your government is, if you have like 1 billion employees, not 1 billion, but like so many employees, but people are just sitting around bullshitting, like watching YouTube videos at work, like sure, like you can trim that down for sure, but
and it's always going to be a balancing act.
It's a balance, yeah.
Because there is bureaucracy that's involved whenever you have, this government employment, and that's partially as protection for, it has to do with the fact that there are regulations, there are unions involved, there's all this stuff that creates bureaucracy, right? In some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, like it might take more time, it might not be super efficient, and there are creative ways to get around that. If we really had smart people in government, they could figure out stuff like that, but to just defund stuff, you're making the bureaucracy worse. You're understaffing these agencies, and that's really what they're doing. I mean,
it's wealth distribution in the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, Betsy DeVos, she's trying to do it currently with the public education system, which I'm a product of public education. I went to public school my entire life.
Yeah, me too. By taking away money, it very clearly impacts your teachers that are directly teaching your kids. Like,
yeah, there was
supplies, they're hosed.
There was actually a study on public schooling in Chicago, right? And oh man, there's this really good interview on the Real News Network that about this guy. He was running for school board or mayor or something like that, and he was talking about his experience with the education system. And what they found was that with the private versus public schooling, actually the public school teachers did a much better job at teaching students. Like, period. They were doing leaps and bounds better than the private school teachers. And the reason is that they have to do so much more with so much less. So they figure this stuff out under intense pressure. Stuff is constantly being underfunded, and the classrooms are way bigger than they should be. It's really a crisis, right? But these private schools, I mean, they get similar test results, and it's just like, what the hell is going on? A lot of them, they don't have to meet certain standards. They don't have to meet the same testing standards, and of course you can get a better private school because you have more options in the matter. Like, if you want to spend more money to go to private, to go to like I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson's new private school, obviously that's going to be a state-of-the-art education. But just talking about like the private school across the street, it's not necessarily any better. In fact, in a lot of cases it's worse, because they're a Christian private school or a Jewish private school, or
it's not to say religion is the bad thing, it's the fact that they're not held to the same standards as these public schools. So in the end, it's this like fucking buzzword of cut down your taxes, redistribute the wealth, but it's redistributing in a rigged way, and it's only going to keep perpetuating this thing as it goes on.
Right.
I would say.
Trump's own congressional budget staffer said that it was going to add to the well, this is what he said. He said I don't think the tax cuts themselves can grow the economy for 20 or 30 years.
The guy said that. This guy said that.
That's really nice, guys. So you guys are going to be dead by the time it kicks in and boosts the economy. And you won't have to deal with it at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to have to deal with the repercussions of it. Meanwhile, we had the Reagan tax cuts, right? Those had to be reversed immediately. Everyone talks about how the Reagan tax cuts were so great, but he only had them. He had to actually reverse the tax cuts because of how bad they did, because of how bad they were. The Bush era tax cuts, all that stuff. It's been 20 to 30 years already. We've had that time. We know it doesn't work. Things have been getting worse. The income inequality has been getting worse. So yeah.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the next one? This is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting news updates right now.
Also, very much so, pay attention to the tax cuts. I think they're as important, if not maybe more important than the Kavanaugh hearing. And this stuff was pushed through under the radar because everyone's paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a more high profile, more popular thing because...
It's a sexier story than tax cuts. But tax cuts are so essential to our lives.
Yeah.
Or tax policy, rather, not cuts. But...
I mean, when people talk about the bad stuff that Trump does, most of it's just angry tweets. The tax cuts are way worse.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to move on to the next one? Okay. So speaking of making America great again, here is the latest. You guys can see that. It's a picture of our good friends Kanye West with Adam Driver and Kenan Thompson. So this is on SNL, and this is premiering tonight, right? So... why is it MAGA? Why is that involved here? Because Kanye's wearing his Make America Great Again hat, right? Which has been the topic of so much controversy in the whole summer. He has been putting out statements. I forget where the statement was. I think it was on Twitter, where he goes on and he's spouting this, like, what's the name of that girl that, like, has his ear right now? The alt-right... I forget what her name is. I'm spacing on it.
Tammy Lauren or Laura Ingraham? No, Candace Owens.
Candace Owens, yeah. That's the girl, yeah. It's crazy, man. I'm so sad and troubled by it. We'll have to see. So, anyways, talking about Kanye in a non-political way, he is no longer Kanye. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, he's
changed his name. He's Ye, officially.
He's Ye.
Yay. Yeah, he has a new name. It's called Ye. Yandi comes out tonight after the SNL performance. So I don't want to get into this conversation anymore because it's so exhausting. The whole should you listen to Kanye or should you boycott Kanye because of this? Perhaps he's just a victim to the brainwashing, but...
I mean, yeah, I think... I have my agreements and disagreements with him, but if you really hear him out, there's some good, there's some bad.
Yeah.
There's everything in between. But yeah, he is a very loud personality. So
yeah. And can be a little problematic and troubling at times.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the MAGA hat is not a good look. But did you see what he did? He did he revised the visor. So all the standard MAGA like made in China hats that you see are shitty, right? They're just shitty quality. And then of course he's like, oh, I'm gonna make it nice, put a little love into it, right? Which is his whole thing. Is like, we're gonna take MAGA, but then we're gonna like make it nice. And it's just like, it's so stupid. That's such a bullshit thing to do, in my opinion. And I don't know. He'll probably. I hope he doesn't start selling these things, but. Anyways.
I mean, you know, he's a capitalist, so he probably will.
Fucking Kanye, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this album. We'll see.
Yeah.
There's some bangers.
Still good music, guys. You know, bad people sometimes make good art, and sometimes you have to separate the person from the art.
Ooh, what about Bill Cosby?
Yeah, I mean, can you still laugh at a Bill Cosby joke because he drugged and, you know, harassed those women or rape? He's a rapist, so and you can go back and forth with it, like, you know, did he or didn't he, or who do you believe, whatever.
Oh no, he's a rapist, man.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into all that, but I do actually think that it's a profound question. Can we still appreciate their art after they've done something morally disgraceful and despicable? And my stance on that, unfortunately, is yes, we can. If you heard a Bill Cosby joke coming from somebody else's mouth, being blasted in the other room, and you didn't know it was a Bill Cosby joke, would you not laugh your ass off?
Still laugh, yeah. I mean, sheesh.
I mean, I feel similarly. I know everyone's gonna hate me for saying this. I feel similarly about Chris Brown, about R. Kelly. I mean, sometimes these people are masters of their craft. So does all that go away when they get charged or arrested or whatever? No, it doesn't, and it's a huge conflict. You know, just mentally, I'm still conflicted about it, but to me, it's just like, I'm not saying that they're innocent at all.
It's a taste thing, honestly. It just comes down to you know, what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and these people are still human.
Yeah.
And humans do horrible things.
Yeah. But also, we can't disregard their shit just because they make good art either. You can't say Bill Cosby's innocent.
It's not an excuse.
Or Kanye's
no.
not complicit in something, you know? So.
It's certainly not an excuse. It doesn't excuse anything that they did.
Yeah, there's problematic people, terrible people that do good things.
Yeah, and there's people, you know, there's good people in prison that did bad things. There, you know, people can totally change. There are, you know, it's a huge gray area.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, going on off of that, do you want to move on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, you pick.
Okay. Ooh, Botham, Scooty Boys, Trojan Horse. Do you want to save Trojan Horse one for last?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. Oh, let's talk real quick about the UN meeting.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So there's this UN meeting, right, where I actually haven't watched too much about it, but I did see that. I think I saw the whole Trump speech.
Trump did his address too. Okay, what happened last time that he was there? What was the big thing that came out of that one?
You mean before this time?
Yeah, so like his first time, he goes to the UN to do a thing.
Yeah, wasn't it just a lot of talking about
This one's pretty funny.
Like posturing of the America First type stuff?
Yeah, but then the key thing that he came up with was Rocket Man is on a suicide mission to, you know.
Okay, yeah, that's where that came from.
And everybody's like, holy shit, this guy's insane. So, Trump, 1 year later, so much shit has happened. We've talked about Kim Jong-un before, but Kim Jong-un met with Trump and shook his hands, and it's fucking absurd. But this time, Trump is up there doing his thing, and he opens up with, "Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to announce before you today that my administration has done more than almost any other administration in the entire history of America." At which point, the audience
broke out into
like,
huge laughs.
Fucking serious. And he looks at he's just like, "That is not the response I was expecting." And then everybody just bursts out. And it's just like, holy shit. That's the big...
I think it's really funny. Actually, to be honest, like, my thoughts on Trump are a little bit controversial because I think sort of like Kanye West, like, he's a little bit misunderstood. Again, I don't harbor any sympathies or empathy towards him at all. I mean, clearly a racist, clearly one of the elites of society, clearly an aristocrat,
and a rapist.
entitled, rapist, all that stuff. He's a sleazebag and a douchebag, all that.
He's all those words into one.
Yeah, but all the words. He's all the words.
That feels good to say.
But
anyways.
that was definitely cathartic. I got some baggage. Good, yeah. I got some baggage.
Yeah. We should just have an episode dedicated entirely to coming up with the longest insult about Trump.
Yeah.
Take like an hour and just put in all these and just have...
Let's do it.
Yeah.
No. So, seriously though, I think he is actually really funny though. I think, to my sense of humor, because I have a dry sense of humor, I think it's really funny when he does all like the New Yorkie, like vaguely Italian, Jewy, like shtick, like, because that's sort of what it was. Like, he's sort of at a vulnerable moment when he was spewing a whole bunch of bullshit. He sort of laughed at himself a little bit, and then the media spun it to both extremes. Like, you have the White House coming out and be like, "Oh yeah, he wanted laughs for that." It's like, no, no.
He's so like, that's such a White House press though. White House press does a terrible job. Let's just say that, because remember when Melania did the whole thing with the jacket that said like, "I don't care, do you?" During the children incarcerations, and then the White House is like, Melania's like, "Oh no, it's not related. It had nothing to do." And then the White House is like, "It definitely was related."
Yeah, they need to get their story straight. That's
stupid.
But on the other hand, though, I think also the liberal media took it way too far in the other extreme, and they were just shitting all over Trump. And I think this is really like a human moment where, like, he's totally like the worst, but it was sort of this like moment where he's exposed, and I think like at that moment he sort of laughed with it a little bit, and it was sort of a joke. I mean, his whole fucking presidency is a joke. It's fun that we can, go to the UN and laugh about it a little bit in the midst of all this like horrible shit that's going on.
Oh, one little piece that I saw, this was like an insider story about Mike Pence on that night of election night, so November 8th, 2016, when they won and the news came in.
I think it was November 7th was the election, right? And November 8th is my birthday, so...
Oh, word.
That's what I got as a birthday present. I got Trump for president.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, Michael Pence was there, and he turns to his wife for a kiss, and she refused to kiss him.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think I saw that.
And she's like...
And didn't something like that, or like hand-holding with Melania like that?
Something, I don't know.
Dude.
It's bad vibes. And like, she's like, "Okay, now you got what you wanted. Okay, so enjoy it. Don't talk to me about it." And it's like, holy shit.
It's sort of... Yeah. Oh my god, it's so... There is a very, very weird, like, sexual tension going on in the Republican Party,
Ugh.
You guys, like, this is me speaking directly to Republicans, even though I'm sure, like, none of them are watching this. I'm gonna speak directly to you. You have some weird sexual hangups going on in your party, okay? Like, looking at all these senators, like, they're all super well dressed and they're all, like, stylized and everything else like that. I was reading last night about Lindsey Graham. He's, like, known at this restaurant in New Hampshire or something for always sitting alone for like 15 years. Okay, his best friend was the old senile warmonger John McCain. That was his best friend. And then you see him with this Kavanaugh hearing. He's like a doormat. He's getting all emotional, right? And unhinged and stuff. Like yelling and stuff. And saying he's pissed to journalists. And then, when they change their mind about the FBI investigation, he just sort of has this look on his face like, well, I guess I'm going to be the one to tell the president. And it's like, dude, you are a fucking doormat. Like, this dude is lonely and all this stuff. I mean, President Pence, he said something, or Vice President Pence, I'm already calling him president. He's like, has this weird thing about going out to eat with like women that are like extramarital.
That whole thing. He's like, no, I won't go to dinner with a woman other than my wife.
Yeah, it's like
you guys are fucking like weird, man. You can't just be friends with the opposite gender.
Dude,
it's such a weird okay. Anyways, fuck, that reminds me of, and this could segue into another thing I want to talk about. Oh, I didn't put on the Beto Ted Cruz. Okay, anyways.
We can go along on this one a little bit.
Okay.
I'm making an executive decision.
Okay, last week.
I'm the president of this.
Yes, no, I'm vice president.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week, fucking Ted Cruz is out with his honey getting food at a restaurant, and they got fucked. Like,
oh yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
They were out getting dinner. This is such a common thing to happen of like getting booed and stuff, but he's so terrible. Like,
Ted Cruz, literally, sometimes I look at him and he looks like Danny DeVito in Batman. He looks like the Penguin, straight up.
He's bad.
Like,
he
has like a scowl on his face at all times.
Yeah, so here's the segue that I was trying to do. We got Botham, right? Mm-hmm. Botham. Recap, Dallas, Texas. Man is in his apartment, chilling. White female police officer busts in and fucking kills him in his apartment. And then, where's the justice there? That whole thing. Okay.
Horrible.
Okay, yeah, so that's that. And then, here's what the Ted Cruz campaign did in response to this. Ted Cruz's campaign, number one goal right now is to discredit Beto.
Yeah.
So they posted a thing on Twitter where they're like, look how stupid Beto is. Like, are you going to believe him? And what was the clip that they put? It was a clip of Beto in a church in Dallas being like, what kind of country is this in where an unarmed man can be shot and killed innocent in his apartment and not receive justice? And then the crowd starts cheering, right? That's a good thing, right? So by posting this and talking shit about that, Ted Cruz is essentially saying, this man is wrong because he wants justice for an innocent person. It's like, what the heck? Are you serious?
A lot of the debate was like about that too, or anyway, the part that I watched is like, there was this part where Ted Cruz called him out for that, and it was just like you could tell that Beto was sort of like he's taken off guard, like, because Ted Cruz's whole argument was like, well, it hasn't been, we're gonna let our courts and jury decide who's really at fault and everything. And it's like, Ted,
bullshit, dude.
You're a fucking lawyer. Okay? You know how bullshit what you just said was. The whole argument, you know, in this case is that these people don't actually see justice a lot of the time. This happened several times. Trayvon Martin. There's no justice.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, whatever the guy's name who shot him, has turned out to be clearly a racist.
Mm-hmm.
And that all came out like.
And then the other point that Ted Cruz, I guess, was implying here is that Botham John was a criminal, though, because he had a little marijuana in his kitchen. Therefore,
right, which turned
innocent.
out to be false. I mean, didn't they either plant it or they searched his apartment after the fact? Like,
I have no fucking idea.
So,
but it doesn't matter, though. Like, that's such a thing.
Also, there was a huge story about Baltimore police officers planting drugs on victims of police brutality. That came out not too long ago.
I could see that.
And it was just like horrible. It was like they did it a bunch of times. Like it was a common thing. It's like, see, and that's a socialist program too. The police department is socialist. We don't have enough money to fund all these laws that are complete bullshit because we fill up our jails with nonviolent drug offenders, and all of our police have, you know, they just go out and arrest whoever, you know, whatever's most convenient, basically.
Yeah. It's not easy being a minority in this country.
And you know, like the whole thing. Okay, so you're the party of law and order. You're the party of the police. Well, the police is a social program, right, for the people that we all pay for with our taxes. And what are they doing? They're actually privatizing that too, but they're not replacing the police force. Also, the police force is unionized, so anyone who is anti-union, they should look at the police force and you know, see about taking that union away. See how that goes for you.
If we didn't have police unions, though, that would probably be a good thing. People would lose their jobs a lot more.
Oh yeah,
you know?
and paid a lot less. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but I mean, they're privatizing that. That's what the whole thing was in North Dakota with the protests, the Standing Rock protests.
No DAPL.
There was a private security firm that was hired.
Jeez, that's the scariest thing. Private security.
It was horrible. They sprayed in ridiculous, like 30-degree weather or something. I might be exaggerating this, by the way. I don't remember any of the facts about it, but in something like 30-degree weather, they were spraying cold water laced with like pepper spray or mace at these peaceful nonviolent protesters. You saw the videos of the dogs that were sicked on Amy Goodman, the reporter for Democracy Now! Yeah. That's a reporter. That's not a protester. Imagine what they did to protesters.
Yeah, and this is why Barack Obama is also complicit in the grand scheme.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We may be left, liberal, whatever, but you still got to realize Obama's not a saint, people, because people will still believe that.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you truly believe that Obama is great, you should, I would encourage you to double check his record, everything that he's done, reread it, look back over it, and ask, you know, line that up with your own morals, your own moral standing. Yeah. Try and like actually rationalize, because this man had a kill list. I mean, he expanded our wars. He like, you know.
So yeah, I mean, there's no president that's perfect. There's no president that's gonna, you know, do everything right and save lives and stuff. But Obama was good. He was good, but there are
with
many issues.
If you
it's problematic.
if you're comparing him to other presidents, there's reasons why he was better than them.
Mm-hmm.
But
still problematic.
Still problematic.
And I would like to move this on. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So, speaking of things that have taken over DC rapidly, scooters is the topic.
Yeah.
So.
Which are awesome, by the way.
So you're walking down the street and you see these. You can download them with an app, and they have become widespread in many American cities and in other places too, actually, all across the world. I was riding one of these in Paris, actually. These things. Okay, what's the deal with these? Good or bad?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What is the deal with them, Henry?
What's the deal?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I just rode one today, but they're fun. They're adrenaline.
They're like razor scooters, but they're
fast as shit.
Yeah, they're like battery powered. So how fast do they go?
Up to 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, up to. So is that like a regulation, or is it like that's just the maximum that they'll go? It's got to be a regulation.
I think it's considered like you need a license if it goes faster than that or something.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so in Washington, D.C., dude was killed, actually. So he, oh, okay, we're getting some comments in here. Scooty persons, don't promote Lime, garbage scooters. Talk to me about them, Skippy Dooders. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, so there's, it's not just Lime, though. Lime is just the one that's, I rode a Lime today, but there's birds and fucking skips and all these other things. But guy was riding through the city, right? And a bus hits him, drags him like 12 yards.
This is in DC?
This happened last week, yeah.
Wow.
Kid died.
I did hear a little
There's
bit
another
about
guy that died in Dallas, actually, for also like getting struck, right?
Jeez.
So
yeah, we gotta really be paying attention to all this new technology, because we're moving so fast in terms of technology.
It was a BMW X3. So we have an expert witness here.
He was there at the scene of the crime.
He was there. Shit, man.
But it wasn't his BMW though. No. So yeah, we just have to be aware. It's the driverless car. I mean, just like all this stuff, we need to be careful about it.
So there needs to be a social agreement here. If we are to have a world with scooters and electric bikes and all this stuff, because honestly we need it, because public transport sucks, to be honest, like in a lot of places. There needs to be this agreement of like, if we are to have something as awesome as these things, drivers need to be aware, and there just needs to be like new rules about it,
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And
also,
for bikes and anything else.
Also, the apps, I mean, the ride sharing, everything like that, it's great, but it does need to be regulated, because like the same way that Uber and stuff, they put the medallion taxi cabs out of business. Those taxi cab drivers, they're buying these medallions, and they're basically like stocks. They increase and decrease in value. Now they've gotten so low that these taxi cab drivers are like literally committing suicide. It's not nice. There are like a bunch of really big stories. Maybe I'll do that in another podcast.
Yeah.
About this taxi driver who committed suicide right in front of Town Hall in Manhattan, and it was like this huge story. And it's because these ride-sharing apps, they undercut the current system. But what do? They underpay their drivers, essentially. They're not like, so drivers have to pay for all the repairs. I think they get like a stipend maybe for gas, or they used to, depending on what app it is. But I mean, these drivers spending so much on repairs, it's less than minimum wage.
So what does America need in order to going forward? Like, we're going through a huge revolution in transportation. Like, it's all about Ubers and app style like rentals and stuff. What do we need for that? I think some of the comments here were talking about new roads to be built and stuff, like bike lanes and stuff.
Yeah, bike lanes. That's huge.
Yeah.
Especially in DC, it's like finding the space and everything like that. But and I was gonna bring that other point back to the scooters and the bikes and stuff like that, because there is a workforce that is charging these things. So they get underpaid, essentially. It's they're driving around using up their own gas, picking up bikes and stuff like that. It's the gig economy, you know, they have to pay their own taxes and stuff. So that's a huge problem. These people aren't unionized. They're basically picking up gigs. They can work whenever they want to. There are pluses and minuses, but yeah, we do need to reinvent the wheel with this. Our entire economy is shifting very, very, very quickly. So.
Oh man, okay, DC's going through another change. The mayor's trying to raise speeding tickets to 500. Jeez. That's fucked. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Lowering the speed limit to 15, that's ridiculous. Maybe that's okay, that's a solution. Okay, so
I did hear about yeah, didn't they raise a ticket, but wasn't it just like for like one, like small one-way streets or something? I feel like it was like, I
feel like this whole thing of a mayor trying to reduce the speed limit and raise the price of tickets is just like a dumbass way of addressing the scooter safety thing. It's totally the wrong way of doing it, you know? You see education and build more lanes, not like dumbing down the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean bikes and cars have been sharing the roads for forever. I mean, since cars or since bikes, or I don't know which one was but yeah, no, I mean, so we do have a system in place for that. It's called not being an idiot and knowing what the risks are, and
the social contract of living in a city, the terms and agreements. You are, by stepping out of your house, you are signing a terms and agreements that you can die. Right. You know?
I mean, people let their kids go out and bike on the street. So
get smart.
Yeah. I think it's
build more bike lanes.
It's a bigger picture issue of like, what do we want to be as a society? Do we want to be like a Band-Aid society, like we're coddling people, not letting them do anything with it that they want, and just trying to enforce all these restrictions and penalties and stuff like that if they do what they want? Or are we trying to allow people to be a little bit more free and engage, like Henry said, in social contracts, and make it a little bit more of a human decency type thing? And also, I mean, we have to account for people, drivers in general. I mean, drivers are the real issue in that situation, not as much as bikers or scooters, because, you know, drivers, they'll be, especially Uber drivers, I mean, they're on their phone and whatever.
Yeah, you're like kind of like, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, maybe that's what the mayor was getting at with that, is that,
but
you know,
people just need to chill out. Like, just take a moment and just like chill. That's what I would say. Okay, do you want to move on to the last topic of the day, the Troge?
Okay, yeah. So here's my rant, right?
Okay.
So I was
So
thinking,
I'm all ears here. I'll
so
say anything.
I was thinking about all the campaigns and races for the Congress and stuff, and I was thinking, like about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and about the guy Andrew Gillum in Florida, and they're sort of like changing their language up in a weird way. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was debating Jake Tapper like in her series of debates. Was it? Yeah, I think it was Jake Tapper, and like she endorsed Cuomo, right? She endorsed Andrew Cuomo because she's like, I guess she just wants a Democrat to win.
Yeah, so it's more of the whole like playing the smart game of like you make a sacrifice, a compromise for the greater thing, which is like good and but problematic too at the same time, I would say.
Yeah, and I think
So
it's a big problem too because things are rapidly changing in America, and I think she would have been better off just. I mean, she should have done exactly what she did with Crowley. I mean, she said in her debate with Joe Crowley that she was going to refer to the DSA and the other groups that support her to give her an answer on who she should endorse or not.
they're not.
I don't think they're Cuomo. Yeah, I don't think they're endorsing Cuomo, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So you got to think who's she been talking to, and who convinced her to endorse Andrew Cuomo. So yeah, that to me that was a big deal. The other thing about Andrew Gillum is that he's, taking pictures with Cory Booker, and he's pretty much. So I mean, he changed his tone about Medicare for all. Now he supports strengthening the ACA, which is not really that cool. It makes you think like what other stuff is he going to change on, and how much of what he told us was actually true. I mean, I think that there was some real reforms that he did in Florida, that he maybe he is serious about bringing that stuff to Washington, but he's also seems to be a career politician, and he wants to make friends in DC and all this other stuff, which is a little bit worrying. So my whole thought, this is my rant, is that why don't Republicans or establishment Republicans or establishment Democrats, why don't they ever turn into progressives when they get elected? They never switch up. They never go the other direction. They always go from a stance of progressivism into they turn
a more conservative compromise.
Yeah, they turn into these establishment people. I was just talking with a bartender about what's his name, the Democrat that was like, yeah, that
Howard Dean.
Yeah, Howard Dean. Yeah, that's how you get people to recognize.
That's the throwback. Yeah.
But yeah, like he used to be really progressive, and now he's like an establishment shill, and I'm just wondering. I mean, like there should be progressives that are down to use a Trojan horse. I mean, how awesome would that be if we had like a Republican in a red state that pretty much campaigns on being
that's so unethical, but
a Republican. I mean, but they do it all the time.
They would get fucked though by their party, though, I would say.
Well, Republicans, yeah, maybe, but I mean politics is a game. I think we should have some Trojan horses in these races. Maybe in a race that seems like a complete shot in the dark, like a progressive would never win. Let's just see if we can throw this guy in there who's gonna make it seem like he's gonna be a Republican, and then all of a sudden he doesn't necessarily change parties or become an independent, but he starts, co-signing legislation that's very progressive, and he starts bringing new ideas into the thing, and especially in the Democratic Party, somebody who, toes the establishment line, gets easily elected in a Democratic district, maybe a more wealthy Democratic district, where they want him to do, tax cuts, and he just sort of goes the other way with it. I mean, we already know Medicare for All is the most popular thing. Like, we already know the approval rating of that. So to
mainstream popularity.
So to pretend that, he wouldn't be on the constituent side, it really just depends which constituents you're asking, because if you really talk to people, everyone everywhere wants healthcare. No, there's not
it's a good thing you want healthcare.
There's not that many people that are like, this shouldn't be a right for somebody who's suffering. There's not that many people that are that, hardline conservative. And it's because a lot of their base, they're poor too, and they don't have healthcare. So they're really not, losing anything. So, I mean, you just have to really make the argument to them, and you have to talk to them like they're human beings. You actually have to do real campaigning. So I assure you that every single Republican in Congress right now, well, maybe not Congress, maybe in the Senate right now, they could make a progressive argument that, oh, this is what my constituents want, and my constituents are being very clear about what they want, and that's why I'm, sponsoring this progressive legislation. Of course, that would never happen. They're not going to do that, especially a Republican, but I think...
Being a Trojan horse.
I think they would be well within their rights to do that, so that was my whole rant. It's just like, why doesn't that ever happen?
Fuck it, why not?
It always happens in the other direction. It always happens that a progressive idealist gets a rude awakening once they get into DC and they realize that nobody's on their side, and they just become establishment corporate politicians. And maybe it's because there's not enough unity, and there's not enough there's not enough organization on the progressive side, and there's
just not a history of big organization.
Yeah, so I think in the left, there's a lot more disagreement and a lot more diversity of opinion, and maybe that's why, is because we don't have a way to really be organized and to set up something like this. Whereas conservatives, you could sort of interchange them. They sort of are gonna pretty much vote the same way on almost everything. They're not exactly the same, but they're definitely organized. That's for sure.
Yeah. So don't fall into that trap of believing that if you come to DC as an elected official, as a progressive, that you can't get anything done because you get woken up to reality. That's not true. They can make whatever fucking reality they want. They just have to be organized well enough to have a coalition of it.
It's true. And I really hate this line of people who are trying to be, I guess the word is pragmatic, or trying to negotiate right off the bat. It's a huge thing in the Democratic Party. It's they go into it thinking about being realistic, and it's not about being realistic at all. It's
some people that are just fearless to go in there and do it.
Well, yeah, and what does it mean if you're already willing to negotiate on your morals and stuff? Your ideas should be extreme. They should have a clear vision of how you want to see the world. You're the person that's supposed to be putting in the work to make it a reality. And then when it gets met with other people and their own different ideas, that's when you start negotiating it down. But right off the bat, a politician trying to get my vote by saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna, negotiate with Republicans. Like, that to me just says, nothing, really. I mean, it just says you're just an actor. You're just
and you just want to be in there. You just want the glory of being a fucking politician. So, oh man, that's a good rant.
Okay, cool,
man. Good bit.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
All right,
we're hitting our hour and 15 minutes right now, so I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. All right, give us our outro.
Tight. All right, hoes and bitches and whatever else. What are we open with?
No. This is the thing that we need to end with. So, any advertisers out there, we're now accepting applications for advertisers.
Oh, yeah.
And I did want to make this other thing about advertisements. Take it away, Henry.
Oh, yeah. You can't spell advertisements without semen between the tits.
Hey!
That's our line. Okay, wait, what does that mean? That's ridiculous. Let's take a look at this, actually. Okay, so our word... this is just stupid. Advertisements. Right.
I don't think it's stupid. I think this is just as important as literally everything else we went over today.
This is the best. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. Boom. Let's do some ridiculous colors on this. We'll make it big.
Beautiful.
How do you make that big?
I think this whole setup, like our video setup, since it just it brings
We're
us
just kind of like filling it in with shit, huh?
Yeah, no, we should just stack on new shit every episode, so it should just get really cluttered and have random shit on there.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I just released a single as well that we can plug on here as well.
Yeah, let's plug that shit.
Yeah, you got some music here. You can look me up on Spotify.
Yeah. So, and you see there's semen between the tits on that.
Oh yeah. Wait. What does that mean? Or like, how does that? Let's highlight that. It's crass. It's rude. But if you go here and you delete that, right? Okay. And then you highlight these middle parts. Put a little space in there. It's a little math. It's like a math equation.
Yeah.
So you move your stuff, and then you take this, and then you go there. Oh, yep. Oh, what do we have? So, it's genius.
Yeah, but the semen is between the tits in advertisements, so.
Yeah. That's so stupid, dude. but it's not stupid, no. It's how we get our money. So please pay us. I don't know anybody that would still want to sponsor us after that, but.
I can think of some
Wendy's.
sponsors after that.
Wendy's. Maybe. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning into the Dapique News podcast.
Also, Fleshlight, if you guys want to sponsor us.
We just keep going on this. Oh my god, wait.
They sponsor Joe Rogan. Why the fuck shouldn't they sponsor us? Or I think they used to sponsor Joe Rogan.
Okay, let me do one last. Thank you.
That's very cute.
Yeah, we'll make it like here and we'll make it big.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. We'll make it nice. I like this red color for it too.
Yeah, red's nice. Nice.
There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great week, and we will catch up with you next week on the next Dapique News podcast. Take it easy, and yeah, see you later.
Peace.